Greetings friends, today we have the release of Pariah Nexus. So this video I'm going to jump through all the cards, I'm going to talk about them and see if you can't learn a thing or two. So let's get right into it. The first thing I want to say is that I'm happy that they've moved this to once per year from once every 6 months, because I felt like when it was once every 6 months you just didn't have time to keep up. So you start with 6 objective markers, useful if you've got none, not the greatest objective markers, but they're there nonetheless. You also get the little rules PDF. Now, this rules PDF has already been FAQ'd. You need to go over to the Games Workshop website because there's a few cards that have actually been changed. So I guess the question is, how are you going to change your cards? You're going to need to come up with like a Sharpie or a note or something, because a few cards are a little bit different. So if we start what we got at the top, we're looking at deployments. Tipping point is this new one, where it's 2 square boxes, looks kind of interesting. Sweeping engagement has also changed from like the diagonals to 2 boxes. Hammer and Anvil looks like it remains pretty much the same. Search and Destroy is remaining the same. Crucible of Battle is remaining the same. And Dawn of War does have one little change. Your deployment zone is now 12 inches rather than 10. So technically, rather than starting the game, I guess, 24 inches away from each other, because it would be 10 plus 10 plus 24, you're now starting 20 inches away on the 44-inch board, because these two are 12, which is 24. So I guess if you're playing something like Orcs on Dawn of War, they are going to be on top of you even quicker. So just be aware of that. Dawn of War is actually quite a difficult map for Blood Angels. Possibly my least favourite. Okay, so I do like this when they keep some of the stuff the same. I think it's good to keep things the same that are working well and add in a few missions. I like that. And I guess if it's once a year, I don't feel so bad about paying for it. So, because it was when they didn't change much in the 6-month period, that's when it was... that's when it felt a bit rubbish. Okay, so here's your mission rules. And let's see. Adapt or die. Once per battle at the end of the player's turn, after scoring any VP, they can discard one of their secondary mission cards and replace it with another secondary mission card that has the fixed symbol. Interesting. So once per battle, you can just change out a mission card for a fixed one. For players using tactical missions, sorry, that was for fixed. Twice per battle, after drawing a secondary card, the player can draw another secondary mission card, then shuffle one of those 2 secondary cards back into their deck. So Adapt and Die is just something like, if it's kind of a cool one, right? Like if you're getting rubbish cards, this mission rule is potentially going to let you swap out some of your cards. Hidden Supplies. When drawn, if you also drew the ritual mission, discard this card. In the place objective markers step, players must set up 1 additional objective marker in no man's land. Before setting this objective marker up, they must first move the objective marker in the center of the battle 6 inches directly towards one of the corners of the battlefield. If no man's land touches one of the corners, that's the way you would place it. Players then set up the new objective marker. So this is, Hidden Supplies is when you create 2 objective markers in the middle. Now there was already an FAQ on that one for like Tipping Point, because none of the corners actually touch no man's land. So if you draw Hidden Supplies on something like Tipping Point, you just roll a dice and that decides which way the objective marker goes out. Okay, Fog of War. This is a cool one. We played this once. In the first battle round, all units have the benefit of cover, and you cannot use any core stratagems, excluding new orders. So you can replace a mission, but you can't use any core stratagems. Turn 1. Inspired Leadership. While the player's warlord is not within the deployment zone, each time a unit from that player's army takes a battle shot test, if that player's warlord is within 9 inches of invisible to that unit, add 1 to the test. So it's just a very minor buff if your warlord is in the right place when you're doing battle shock. Prepared positions. This is what they talked about by having battle line be a little bit stronger. Players can target a battle line unit with the go to ground and heroic intervention stratagem for 0 CP. But cannot do so if they've already used that stratagem on a different unit that turn. So I guess if you have a battle eye unit holding on an objective, then when you're shot, you may as well go to ground, it gives you cover, and it's free. And let's be fair, not many people play go to ground, right? So That should be cool. Next up, raise banners. At the end of the player's turn, if a battle line unit from the army is within range of an objective marker that player controls, that unit raises a banner on the objective marker. That player scores 1 VP, which is counted towards their secondary mission score, and that player's units can no longer raise a banner on the objective marker. So, basically, if you've got battle line units on objectives, you can raise a banner, score 1 VP, it counts towards your secondary score, and it's just another bonus for having battle line units. Rapid Escalation is a mission rule where you can put a couple hundred points of battle line units into Strategic Reserve for free. Smoke and Mirrors is a very interesting one. After both players have destroyed their army, starting with the attacker, each player can place 1 unit from their army on the battlefield into Strategic Reserve. So you could put like one of your best units, like in my case, I guess, Dante and 10 Sangre Guard, put them absolutely far forward, make my opponent react to his deployment, make him think that I'm going to jump right on top of him turn 1, and then Smoke and Mirrors means at the start of the game I just pick them up and put them in Strategic Reserve. Stalwart is another battle line one. Battle line units performing an action are still able to shoot in that turn, and battle line units can perform an action while within engagement range of 1 or more enemies. So basically, if you are running something like Heavy Intercessors, they're going to be able to do actions even in tight situations. And then final mission rule, swift action. Battle line units that advance or fall back are still available or eligible to do actions. So about half of these are going to buff battle line units. And I guess there's no longer Chilling Reign. So you're always going to have something to deal with. I'm not entirely sure how meaningful the battle line changes will be, but I guess some armies that use a lot of battle line will get some real benefit out of it. Okay. I feel like that is an improvement over what we had last edition as well. Okay, so now we're looking at primary missions. Take and Hold. We know what Take and Hold is. In the command phase, the player scores 5 VP for each objective marker they hold, up to 15. Nice and simple. The Ritual. When setting up the battlefield, remove all objective markers from No Man's Land. This is a weird one. This is the one where you create your own objective markers. So in your shooting phase, select 1 unit from your army. It has to be exactly 12 inches from another objective marker and within No Man's Land, and not within 6 inches of any other objective marker, and that unit can create an objective. I feel like they could have maybe put a cap on that, because you can get to a point where there's quite a lot of objectives, but I guess the Ritual is what it is. Unexploded Ordnance. I'm not sure I'm familiar with this one. Start your shooting phase. 1 or more units from your army, each within range of a different hazardous objective marker you control. The objective markers at the start of the battle in No Man's Land are classed as hazardous. Okay, so it completes at the end of the turn. If the unit performing the action is still within range of the hazardous marker you control, you can move each of those hazardous markers up to 6 inches. When doing so, those objective markers cannot end the move on top of other objective markers or models, or inside impassable parts of terrain features. So, from the second battle round onward, the player whose turn it is scores VP as following: 8 VP for each hazardous objective marker that is wholly within the opponent's deployment zone, 5 VP for each other hazardous objective marker that is wholly within 6 of their opponent's deployment zone, and 2 VP for each hazardous objective within 12. So this is a pretty crazy one, right? Because you have to get the units onto the objective, you start the action, and then they move the objective 6 inches, and you're basically trying to push all your objectives into your opponent's deployment zone. 2 points within 12, 5 points within 6. But here's the thing, if they kill you, they can then just push the objective back towards you, right? This one, Unexploded Ordnance, there was a variant of it in the last mission pack, and it got a little bit crazy. Okay, Linchpin. End of the command phase, or the end of your turn, if this is the 5th battle round. If the player whose turn it is does not control the objective marker in their deployment zone, they score 3 VP for each objective marker they control. If the player does control the objective in their deployment zone, they score 3 VP for each objective marker they control, and 5 VP for each other marker. Sorry, so Linchpin basically means the whole game revolves around holding your backfield. If you don't hold your backfield, you just get 3 points from the other objective markers. If you hold your backfield, you get 3 from it, and you get 5 from all the others. So if you're playing as Space Marines, Infiltrators just sitting on your home field objective in Linchpin will be very useful. Alright, Scorched Earth, your shooting phase from the second battle round onward. One unit from your army within range of an objective marker that is not within your deployment zone. End of your opponent's first turn, or the end of the battle, whichever comes first. If your unit is still within range of the same objective marker and you control that objective marker, it is burned. So this is the one where you can burn objectives and remove them from the map. We've played this one in Leviathan. Each time the player whose turn it is burns an objective marker, they score 5 VP if they burn the marker in no man's land, and 10 VP if they get the marker in the enemy's deployment zone. And meanwhile, you do score 5 VP for each objective marker you control throughout the game. So you're trying to control the objectives, and when you think it's the right time, you burn some of them. So you try and get a little bit of a lead, and then you burn some of them so your opponent can't jump back into the game. Okay, supply drop. At the start of the battle, players randomly select 2 different objective markers in no man's land. The first is Alpha, the second is Omega, and having played this one a few times, basically, in the 4th battle round, the Alpha objective is removed from the battlefield, and in the 5th battle round, the Omega objectives... Oh, sorry, everything apart from Omega is removed. So it basically focuses all the fighting over the one objective that's going to be there at the very end, and potentially the other objective that's going to be there till the end of the turn 4. You're going to get 5 points for holding objectives in the 2nd and 3rd round, 8 for the 4th round, and 15 if you hold that objective, the final objective in the final turn. Huge, but like if you go 2nd on supply drop, keep a unit alive to just take that objective in the final turn, and you will get 15 VP. It can be a huge swing. I think I've lost games, or I think I've almost lost games because someone's taken that at the very end and had a 15-point swing on primary. Okay, Purge the Foe, very simple. When you kill an enemy unit, you get 4 victory points. If you destroyed more enemy units than friendly units, you get 4, and you also get 4 for controlling objectives, and another 4 if you control more objectives. So Purge the Foe is a very simple one. Burden of Trust. End of the command phase, or the end of the turn. If it is the 5th battle round, the player whose turn it is scores 4 VP for each objective marker they control that is not within their deployment zone. Then for each objective marker the player controls, they can select 1 unit from your army, excluding aircraft, within range of the objective marker to guard it until the start of the next turn. The opponent of the player whose turn it is scores 2 VP for each of their units, excluding battle shot units that are within range and guarding the objective marker they control. Interesting. So you could try and... The player whose turn it is scores 4 VP for each objective marker they control and is not within their deployment zone. Yeah, so you would have to guard some objectives in no man's land, but if you do that, you can get a boatload of points if you have multiple units on it. I mean, most people have like strongholds on the battlefield. I think the Blood Angels would probably be fine for that, because you could have like scouts and assault intercessors and like bikes or something all on the same objective. Blood Angels could do that one pretty well. Terraforming. So in your shooting phase, 1 or more units from your army, each within range of a different objective marker that is not within your deployment zone and has not been terraformed. End of your opponent's turn, or the next battle round, whichever comes first. If the unit performing this action is still within range of the objective marker and you're controlling the objective marker, it's terraformed. So, when end of the command phase, or the end of your turn, if it's the 5th battle round, the player whose turn it is scores VP as follows, up to 15 per turn. 4 VP for each objective marker they control, 2 VP for each objective marker they've terraformed during the battlefield. So once you've terraformed it, no one else can terraform it. So if you get to the objective first and terraform it, it's then yours, and you are then scoring 2 VP for the rest of the game for each objective marker they have terraformed. So even if your opponent comes and steals it from you, as long as you've terraformed it, you're just going to get 2 VP for all the way through the game. The above VP are cumulative, so players control 1 objective marker, and they also have a terraform. They will score 6 VP. Interesting. I mean, I run Outriders, right? If in Scouts, I guess, if you can get them onto center field objectives very early in the game, do some terraforming, start scoring points all the way through the game. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Alright, so next up would be the secondary missions. Secure No Man's Land. Any battle round, when you control an objective marker in No Man's Land, 2 points. When you control 2, 5 points. Simple. Containment. In the shooting phase, one more unit from your army are wholly within 9 inch of one or more battlefield edge and not within the deployment zone. Select a different one of those battlefield edges for each of those units, and you can get 6 VP. This is the change from Investigate Signals. So now you're doing it on battlefield edges rather than corners. 2 units, 6 points. Much easier than 4 units for 8 points, right? Marked for death. So basically, what happens is when you draw this objective card, your opponent must select 3 units from their army. There are only 1 or 2 units from their army in the battlefield. They must select those ones. And if you kill any of them that are marked for death, you get 5 points. Nice and simple. Your opponent can play around that one, especially if you draw it early in the game and you draw units that are kind of hiding at the back. You have to pick stuff that's on the battlefield. You can't pick anything that's in reserve. Okay, Defend Stronghold. We all know exactly what that is. 3 points. It scores at the end of your opponent's turn. Simple. Storm Hostile Objective now scores 4 points if you control 1 or more objective marker, or if your opponent did not control any objective markers at the start of the turn and control 1 or more markers, now it's 4 points. So that's good. I think they've made some changes to these ones, so there's less situations where you just can't score them, which I really like. Engage on all fronts. If you draw this and there's fewer than 3 units from your army in the battlefield, you can discard it for each quarter. So for 1 or more units from your army are wholly within 3 quarters, you get 2 points. If you're wholly within all 4 and 6 inches away, it's 4 points. Nice and simple. Recover assets. 2 or more units from your army. And if there's fewer than 2, again, you can discard the card. If each of those units is wholly within a different one of the following areas: your deployment zone, no man's land, and the opponent's deployment zone at the end of the turn, if either of 2 or 3 of those units are on the battlefield, you score the point. So basically, recover assets means have a unit in your deployment zone, have a unit in no man's land, have a unit in their deployment zone. If you're 2 out of 3, 3 points. If you're 3 out of 3, 6 points. Again, pretty simple. Behind enemy lines, we know exactly what that is. 1 unit behind enemy lines, 3 VP, 2 units, 4 VP. However, they changed this, thank God. If you draw it in battle round 1, you can withdraw it, or you can redraw it. Really happy about that. The amount of times you score behind enemy lines in turn 1, you just can't score it. Okay, Area Denial. 1 or more of your units are within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield, and there's no opponents within 3, 2 points. 1 or more of your units are within 3, and there's no opponents within 6, 5 points. Assassination. So this card has been FAQ'd, but basically what it is 1 or more characters were destroyed this turn. You're going to get 5 victory points in tactical. You're going to get 4 in fixed. And if you've destroyed all your opponent's characters, you're going to get 5 points in tactical. So I guess if you destroy all the opponent's characters in fixed, then you're going to essentially stop scoring after that. Okay. Cleanse. So 1 or more units from your army are within an objective marker that is not within your deployment zone. So you cleanse the objective and you get 2 points. If you can cleanse 2 objectives, you get 4 points. Again, very simple. I mean, a bunch of these are from the Leviathan deck, right? Establish Locus. 1 or unit from your army ends at the end of your turn. If that unit is within your opponent's deployment zone or within 6 inches of the center, you establish a locust. This is basically deploy teleport Homer. So, but they've changed it so it's 2 VP for the center now rather than 3, and 4 for the enemy deployment zone. Sabotage. 1 unit from your army that is within a terrain feature, not within your deployment zone. Basically, you park them in a terrain feature. This works really well with impulsors. Park them in a terrain feature, sabotage that terrain feature. Basically, if they survive, they commit sabotage. If it's in no man's land, it will be 3 points. So it's not objectives, it's terrain features. So I think, like, if you've got an impulsor and you're wanting to hide behind a wall or something to do a charge out of the impulsor, this is a perfect secondary for them. So impulsors don't really do much damage shooting. So 3 points or 6 points if you can sabotage in your opponent's deployment zone. That could also be a good one for, like, if you've got 5-man jump intercessors. You know, just 5-man jump intercessors jump into terrain feature in your opponent's DZ, I mean, they're unlikely to be screening terrain features, right? They screen objectives, they're unlikely to screen terrain features, so sabotage would be a good one for a little 5-man squad of jump assault intercessors. Overwhelming force. Each time an enemy unit that started on turn on a range of objective is destroyed, 3 points up to a maximum of 5. No prisoners. Each time an enemy unit is destroyed, 2 victory points up to a maximum of 5. Bring it down. When drawn, if there are no monsters or vehicles, hallelujah, on the battlefield, you can get rid of it. Each time you destroy a monster, it's 2. Each time you destroy a monster with more than 15, it's another 2. Each time you destroy a monster or vehicle with over 20, it's another 2. This is a fixed one, actually. The cumulative VP, so destroying monsters and vehicles, yeah, so it's cumulative. It doesn't actually give a cap. It used to be capped at 8. That's interesting. So if you destroyed, like, 215, like, if you destroyed 2 Land Raiders in a turn, you would get 8 points. I mean, I guess you're not going to destroy much more than 2 Land Raiders in a single turn. Okay, extend battle lines. We know that. You control one or more objective in your deployment zone and one or more in no man's land. But if you only have one unit on the battlefield, that unit controls one objective marker in no man's land, you can still get some points. So it's nice to see some of these caveats for when things are going bad, you're not totally shut down in points. And Call the Horde, this is an interesting card. So basically this is a new one that basically says, when drawn, if there are no enemy units on the battlefield that satisfy the condition, and the condition would be that the enemy has a single unit with 20 different guys in it. So like, a mob of orcs with 20, or a mob of Necron warriors with 20. If you destroy it, you will get 5 victory points. And if the total wounds characters of the models are destroyed, hold on, let me read it. Each time an enemy infantry is destroyed, if one or more of the following conditions are true, the starting strength of the destroyed unit was 20 plus, so that would be your mob. The total of the wounds characteristics of the model that was destroyed was 25 plus. So I guess if for some reason they had a squad of Terminators with 3 wounds a model, and it was a 10-man squad, then yeah, I guess you would get Call the Horde if you killed. They're not very horde-y Terminators, but you would get it. Okay, so that is secondary missions. We've done primary missions. I think we're coming to the end. We've got secret missions. So these are replacing gambits, which, let's be fair, nobody ever used. So secret missions will be drawn at the same time at the start of, or at the end of Battle Round 3. And when you draw a secret mission, your maximum score from primary drops from 50 to 40. What that means is, let's say you manage to get 20 primary points by that turn 3. If you take the secret mission and complete it and get the 20 points, I mean, you will still get primary points while you hold things, but the secret mission basically means that you're capped at 40. So quickly to clarify, secret missions are challenging covert goals you can pursue if the primary mission seems in jeopardy. At the end of the 3rd battle round, starting with a player who's had the 2nd turn, if your primary mission VP is total is less than or equal your opponent's, you can choose to undertake a secret mission. If you do so, select one secret mission card and place it face down. You cannot score more than 20 VP from the primary mission card. Any excess VP are lost. So if you had 12 VP from the primary card, you could still score 8 in turns 4 and 5, but you can never get more than 20. At the end of the battle, reveal your secret mission card to your opponent, and if you achieved it, you get the 20 victory points that's on it. So we've got 20 victory points if your warlord is in range of one or more objective markers in the enemy's deployment zone that you control. I wanted to do this the other day with Dante, but I think he would have got killed and I wouldn't have scored it. So I guess Space Marines maybe aren't the best for this because, you know, like if your warlord's Angron or something, then maybe that would be really good. Shatter Cohesion. At the end of the battle, if there are no units from your opponent's army on the battlefield, you'll take 20 points. So I guess if you think you're going to table them, but you've not been doing very well in primary, every unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield is either below half strength, battle shocked, or more than 3 inches away from the marker. So I guess if they got one guy, they're running away into a corner of the board, you would still score the 20 points. I like that they did that caveat. That could have been abusable. Okay, Unbroken Wall. You control 3 or more objective markers and are not within your deployment zone. So I guess if, like, in my games for Blood Angels, I'm usually quite slow at starting, sort of struggle because we don't have a ton of units that are just going to sit and be durable on objectives. So if I think I'm going to come back in turn 4 and 5 and take a bunch of the objectives in the middle of the board and wipe them out, then 20 victory points could be better. And then finally, War of Attrition. One or more battle line unit from your army are within your opponent's deployment zone, and one of the following conditions applies. There are no battle line units from your opponent's army in the battlefield. Every battle line unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield is within your opponent's deployment zone. So, I feel like these are big improvements from the Gambits, but I'm not entirely sure which ones I'm actually going to end up using. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me which secret missions. If you've played one of them, I'd love to know what one you played, and I'd also love to know if you felt like it was valuable. Remember, your opponent will not know your secret mission. You'll have it face down, and you'll reveal it at the end of the game. And I guess when you pick it, don't run Dante straight onto the opponent's DZ straight away, because they might figure it out, right? You want to maybe be a little bit sly, trying to keep your secret mission a little bit hidden. So I guess that's a first look at the chapter approved Pariah Mission Deck. I'm actually going to GT this weekend. I am playing with it, so it's tomorrow. It's the Blood Angels Commander GT, so there's probably going to be some sort of live stream this weekend of the hall where we're playing the GT. I'm not sure we'll have a good sound setup, but there'll be a stream going anyway, so you can see what we're up to. And yeah, it's going to be a baptism of fire. I'm going to get one practice game, so that's why I wanted to make this for this week's tactics video, just to give a quick look at all of them. I don't know how much I'm going to remember when we get into the GT, but it is what it is. So thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Remember to like, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm stuff, and if you want to support the channel, you can do for the price of a cup of coffee every month, and I certainly do appreciate it. Have a great weekend, guys. Hopefully I'm going to see some of you at the GT. By the blood are made strong. Peace.